Hello Earthlings, and welcome to another album review, another outdoor album review video thing. So as you can probably tell from the title, I'm gonna be reviewing I'll Be Your Girl, the latest album from the Decemberists, the fifth so far recorded with their current lineup. The Decemberists are a folk rock band from Portland who would be nothing without Colin Malloy, their singer, songwriter, and rhythm guitarist. There are two things that musically set this album apart, and I mean that in the most neutral way possible, but set it apart from the four before it. The less noticeable of the two is the fact that John Moen doesn't sing at all on this album. He, along with his two predecessors on the drums, has always been the main backing vocalist in the band, even though they've brought in a lot of female vocals since time immemorial. But this is the first album they've done in a long time on which, in fact, this may be the first album they've done ever on which the drummer doesn't sing. The more obvious change in their sound is the abundance of synths that not only played by Jenny Conley, but also by Chris Funk, the lead guitarist. I should have put a period at the end of that sentence. Anyway, let's get to the music. Track 1 is called Once in My Life. It's possibly the least Malloyan lyric on the album. It's only got 3 lines. All but 2 of the words have 1 syllable, and the 3 lines are just repeated throughout. So the arrangement very much makes the song, because it's the longest song on the album. Not the longest track, but the longest song. There is a bit of a lyrical change at the end when Colin quotes Barnaby Hardly Working by Yo La Tengo. Speaking of Yo La Tengo, I'm going to be reviewing their new album tomorrow. I say Once in My Life really works as an opener. I don't know how well it works as a single, though. Track 2, Cutting Stone, is yet another one of Colin's many folk-songy sounding songs, which I love. But again, it's given the synth-pop treatment. Here it sounds a bit like a cross between Daft Punk and something Kevin Parker might have not quite put on Currents by Tame Impala. I definitely like it a bit more than Once in My Life. I like these first 2 songs in really different ways. Track 3, Severed, might be the very definition of new wave, if it were not for the fact that there's been so much new wave music made before it in the 70s. Again, the synth does have shades of Daft Punk in it, like something like Superheroes. I think someone else said that it sounds like Colin was held at gunpoint and forced to lead a new wave band, and I do not completely disagree with that. I mean, it's a pretty decent song. It just doesn't feel Decemberist at all. It feels like something that might have worked better in the hands of Devo or Elvis Costello in the Attractions before they became the Imposters. Star Watcher does feel a bit like a more stereotypical Decemberists song. Well, I mean, especially because, like Once in My Life, it starts with just Colin and his acoustic. And if you imagine Colin's acoustic being way more up front in the song, it does sound like the Decemberists. Although the arrangement gives a bit more of a, for some strange reason, I want to say Queens of the Stone Age at their most experimental, and I don't know why. It's definitely heavier in a new way for the band, because I know they have done some heavy stuff, but it's always been outnumbered by the lighter, folkier stuff. But I'm saying stuff a lot, I think. Track 5 is Tripping Along, and I think I'm noticing a pattern here where they're taking songs where Colin doesn't really make a drastic change to his songwriting, they just electrify everything. I mean, Tripping Along would work great as an acoustic ballad, and it almost is, apart from the fact that Colin's playing an electric guitar instead of an acoustic, but the words are very Malloyan, and the way he sings them is undoubtedly him. Your Ghost sounds an awful lot like The Perfect Crime No. 2, except the drums are even punchier here, and there's a bit more repetition in the vocals. They repeat the title a lot, and this one motif, this na 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 na, does get a bit repetitive, but I can't fault it for sounding otherwise like The Perfect Crime number 2. Track 7, Everything Is Awful, is an upbeat little piano number. It's got some staggered backing vocals in the chorus. They don't sing right with Colin, they're a beat behind, at least. I always love that kind of thing. The words here are pretty simple again, although hoist your own petard is a nice line in the second verse. Sucker's Prayer is a possible first for Colin Meloy, a song about longing for love without being enticed by someone else. It reminds me a lot of European Oils by Destroyer, at least the arrangement, and I'm really digging Chris Funk's lead guitar part on this, both the phasery psychedelic thing he does at the beginning, and then the more rock and roll distorted solo in the middle. We All Die Young is the other song on the album that sounds bloody new wave. It sounds like, is it a Google Pixel commercial? No, it's the Samsung Galaxy commercial. If you know what I'm talking about, leave the product name in the comments. That commercial with the boom 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 boom. It sounds like that at first, so at least it has a bit more boogie to it than Severed. I definitely like it. I like the distorted sax that comes in at one point. It matches the distortion on Colin's voice. The lyrics have a nice rhyme pair, rhyming lashings with gnashings, two super uncommon words, very Decemberists. Also, the mention of General Bill Tecumseh Sherman is a really Meloyan thing. I'm guessing this will probably end up as another single from the album. And then things really slow down for, at this point, my favorite song from the album, Rusalka Rusalka, one of 2 songs that make up track 10. As I said, things really slow down for this one. It's a pretty quiet, nocturnal ballad about the Russian folkloric analog to a siren, except the Rusalka lives by lakes rather than by seas, I believe. And if there is ever a song on this album where the synths work with the music, it's here. They only contribute to the misty, nocturnal atmosphere, which kind of explodes in an epic way, for want of a better word, on the last word, which is sky. And this song segues directly into Wild Rushes, which follows basically the same lyric plot. Beautiful siren-type water creature tempts man to drown. Except this one is set to much more upbeat, almost Cranewife era type music. It's got an interesting rhyme of beneath and death at the end. It's one of those rhymes you almost don't see coming because the vowels don't really rhyme, but the consonants do. And there are almost no synths on Wild Rushes, and the same goes for the title track, which closes out the album. This is a sweet little 60s pop folk ditty complete with psychedelic vibes and tambourine. It's got some nice rhymes in the lyrics. I love the sort of gender bending metaphor. You know, I could be your man, but I'll be so much more. I'll be your girl. So yeah, I can't fault this song at all. So, all in all, this is a good album. It's not their best. For me, that would be the Cranewife. But it does for the most part sound like Colin's songwriting hasn't changed much since What a Terrible World, What a Beautiful World, their last album. Although I do think that people could be just as turned off by the simple lyrics as they could by the presence of synths on most songs. The lack of backing vocals from John doesn't really take away much, because they still have their 2 female backing vocalists. I do like that they are incorporating synths, especially when they work, like on Rusalka Rusalka, or even on Once in My Life, because on that song there's not a whole lot of song for the synths to get in the way of. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad album, but that's just my opinion. I'm dying to hear yours. Leave it in the comments. But yeah, I will be reviewing Yo La Tengo's new album tomorrow. But until then, this is Neutron signing off. Go forth and be awesome.